Hello, my name is Maria Pace, and welcome to the 2023 student elections. Now, before we start, I have to read a statement of respect. So, firstly, the NUSU welcomes all Newcastle University students to the 2023 election debates, organised and broadcasted by the NUSU student media. Our priority is to facilitate a fair and democratic election, and we believe in the freedom of speech and the right for all students to express their views. However, we do not tolerate harassment or discrimination of all kind. We ask that you treat all students, colleagues, and staff with respect. Anyone displaying rude, aggressive, or inappropriate behaviour within the question submission form or in the room will be removed immediately and will be unable to play an active role in this and future debates relating to the 2023 student elections. Now, candidates, before you introduce yourself, please use your pronouns, and you would not need to ask for questions because they'll be on the screen. All questions have been pre-submitted through a form, and there'll be no questions in the room, and the comment section of the stream will be turned off. But thank you and enjoy, and passing to Ella.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, my name is Ella. My pronouns are she, her. And before we begin, we're just going to give a blanket trigger warning, as this is the Welfare and Equality Officer. We will be covering topics of harassment, racial abuse, mental health. So take care of yourselves. I'm now going to pass over for opening statements. Each candidate can introduce themselves with their name and their pronouns. They'll have about a minute to talk about the platform they're running on, what we can expect from them as our Welfare and Equality Officer, before we'll go back for prepared questions and then closing statements again. So I'd like to start with, sorry, you didn't get your name over here.
I'm Pooja.
So we're going to start with Pooja and move round to Tanvi. Tanvi? Last, so
Can I start?
yeah, just your name, pronouns, and your opening statements, please.
Yeah. Hello everyone, I'm Pooja. My pronouns are she, her. I'm running, as you all know, I'm running to be a Welfare and Equality Officer. And I'm really very happy to be a part of this debate. And I'm expecting a good questions, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to answer your questions in detail. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name's Anirban. My pronouns are he, him. I'm running to be your Welfare and Equality Officer. I'm excited for this debate. Let's all have a good time. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanvi. My pronouns are she and her. I'm currently a Master's in Clinical Psychology student. I really love being a part of a group which works towards the betterment of other people. So I have had 3 years of experience in working quite a few organizations like Rotract and Women's Development Empowerment Cell. And currently I'm a scrutiny member and also a halls rep. I look forward to bring all of the skills that I have learned in these organizations if I'm selected for the post. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lucy. As we are all here, we're running for Welfare and Equality Officer. I've been at Newcastle for 3 years, and throughout all this time at university, I've been quite heavily involved in a lot of societies. I've been a student rep, and I've also done an internship within Newcastle University. And I'm also the current president of Feminist Society. I guess my main manifesto points are clarity, community, and cost of living. I think all 3 are really important. So clarity is all about further supporting survivors of sexual violence by improving the incident reporting system and making it clearer and more accessible. And then community is all about listening to the voices of marginalised identities and marginalised groups and working with liberation officers to support their campaigns. Then lastly, cost of living, as it says, working with the university and lobbying the university and local stakeholders about the acute impacts of the cost of living crisis upon the student body and marginalised groups. But yeah, that's like the overall run of my campaign.
Hi, I'm Azra, and I'm running for Welfare and Equality Officer, obviously. I have been involved in the Law Society, where I took part in a client interviewing competition and was part of the Pakistani Society as a student media officer, where I interacted with individuals on a daily basis with any queries they had and took action where it was necessary. My main manifesto points focus on mental health, sexual health, drugs and alcohol, as well as equality and awareness. I want to ensure that all students are aware that if elected, I would be very approachable, accessible, and inclusive for all students, whether it be in person or online. My goal for the coming up academic year is to ensure that there will be a safe space for students to access their needs, whether that be in regard to mental health and sexual health, and they are aware of all the opportunities available to them. I want to introduce more investments in mental health services, as well as investments for sanitary equipment and more welfare training for the relevant staff committee around campus. Thank you.
So before we go into pre-prepared questions, I just want to ask Anirban, do you want to tell us a little bit about the platform you're running on, just because I don't think you had a chance to just give your opening statement there? I think you just gave us your name and pronouns, if that's okay.
So I'm one of the project leads at NEST, which is Northeast Solidarity in Teaching. I'm also the course rep for PGT Archaeology, and before that in India, I used to be a part of the volunteering group, Red Volunteers. Did you mean something else?
No, that's everything. That's okay. Great. That's fine. So we're going to go into our first question now. So, what is it about you that you believe differentiates yourself from the other candidates and makes you perfect for the role of our welfare officer? And to begin with this, we'll begin with Tanvi and work our way around the other way.
So as I mentioned in my introduction, that I have had experience of 3 years in working in different organizations. I have learned that it's not just about I and then I can do, but it's about how we as together we can bring a change in the society and how we can grow. So if I have to differentiate myself from others' manifestos, I'm sure they also have a good manifesto, but if I have to specifically choose myself, it will be, I would obviously be the one to take the final decision, but I would expect cooperation and teamwork from my team as well as students. So yeah.
Great. Asra, do you want to go next?
I think everyone up here brings something new to the table. What I believe I bring is willingness to interact with everyone. Growing up, I was exposed to many different cultures, and I feel like this has carried through my time at university. For example, I am Indian, yet I have worked as PACSOC media officer and really enjoyed catering to everyone.
I think what defines me, I guess, is all the experience I've had. Like, I've been in Newcastle University for 3 years, and all throughout university, I've been a very prevalent member of Feminist Society, as I am the current president now. And I think using that experience and being welfare officer for that society last year, I've done all the training. I've fully immersed myself into as much of the position as I could, really supporting students, being that person that students can come to, and signposting to all the amazing welfare services we have at the university. I think also, first and foremost, I have first-hand experience of using them. I have various experience of using the counselling service, using the wellbeing service, and as a survivor of sexual assault, I've gone through the whole process of incident reporting system, and it is a very intense process. The few weeks I was through an investigation, I felt through that process and really being immersed in that after, in reflection, I thought how I can improve that process, especially as daunting as it was being a survivor and having to face my perpetrator and a lot of different things. It was very intense. And I think I've brought all that energy, and I think that happening and having that experience using the welfare services that are offered to students, I've used that as a positive driving force of why I'm here today, all the experience I've had through the Feminist Society. Yeah.
Great. Can we go to you next, Pooja?
I personally think that adaptability is the most important thing which makes me stand out of the crowd, and also the urge to make change and help others. I have always been open to learning. During my undergraduate days, I joined Track, where I was assigned as the joint secretary and a district priority officer, where it was a huge responsibility for me. I won't say that I did it with ease, but I did learn so many things, that nothing comes easily, and most importantly, nothing is impossible. And this experience also makes me stand out of the crowd.
And Anirban, over to you.
Yeah, I believe my own experiences working as the project lead for NEST, where I've worked closely with refugees and asylum seekers and worked for their welfare, and also back in India when I used to be a part of Red Volunteers and worked for the welfare of those in need who needed like basic essentials and medicines and supplying those to them. That makes me a good candidate for it. But also, I've been I've had like long-standing clinical depression for like 7 or so years, and so I tried to access the university support. I've found that there's no out-of-hours support and like the volunteering at Nightline, so that's a personal goal for me to like to improve that, and also the like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I think students should get more say in it, like how to fit in their time with it. So I guess that makes me a good candidate for the role. Thank you.
Thanks for your response. As welfare officer, you will be the first point of contact for student violence, harassment and discrimination, as well as working alongside the student wellbeing service and mental health advice team to keep the university up to date on student mental health and pastoral support, making the role perhaps one of the loftiest of the sabbatical officers. What is it about yourself that prepares you to shoulder such an immense responsibility on behalf of the student union? And Azra, if we could start with you again.
Thank you. I think I'm prepared. I'm prepared to hold this immense responsibility on my shoulder because I develop the right coping strategies when for when I feel stressed and like get anxiety and stuff. Example is like when I came to university, I was 17 and it was during the pandemic, so I didn't really know anyone or couldn't meet anyone. But I was still able to settle in and make my own community and form one. And whilst working at law firms as well, I've learned to be resilient. So I want to help other people and other students around the university learn how to be resilient to certain situations and give them like the right coping mechanisms and strategies to do so. Yeah.
I think for me, already being president of a society, I feel like I already feel that immense responsibility, like on a day-to-day basis. It's always like my main duty, the main responsibility of being a president, and what I feel every day is that duty of care. Like we have to be there to support our members no matter what. And I think already having that experience and having to make quick decisions, yes, sometimes it might have to be good cop, bad cop, but I think the main thing is like having to make those decisions and that having that care and that support for our members. And I think like following on from that, and I think throughout my whole experience at university, I've really like grown in like empathy, I guess. I feel like I've always been quite an empathetic person, but I guess like having all that welfare training and being a president of such a political society where our members feel like so comfortable like coming up to us and really discussing their like issues, I think that's like one of the main things as well. And I think coming into the role of welfare and equality officer, like working with a team of sabbatical officers, it's like I'm going into that situation knowing that, yeah, I might not know anything. Like I obviously like, how do I explain this? It's like I know that I might not know like everything out there, and I think that's such a good like learning opportunity, but it's also like learning how I can support them as a team and all the people around me. So I think like having that support system there as well, I think is so important that hopefully I've got. Yeah.
So for me, I would start like being a psychology student. One thing that I've been practicing since years is knowing how to keep a check on emotions that you have and the people that come up and talk about, because expressing your emotions it might sound easy for people, but then for some people it's very hard, like talking about and opening about their emotions, how they feel. So while listening to the emotions that people bring up to you, and if I'm an officer, if students come up and talk to me about their emotions, making sure that I'm able to listen to their emotions as well as keeping my emotions in check, while maintaining the confidentiality that your information that you're coming and talking to me is not going to be shared with just anyone and everyone. It's private and it will be among us. And if it has to be addressed to other people, it will be only to the people who are like going to help you deal with your problems. So one of the manifesto points that I have talked about is mental health, but making sure I'm definitely sure that the mental health well-being services in university is the best. But from one of my friend's experiences when she had gone for therapy sessions, the total amount of sessions that university gives is 6. and it is free, obviously. But what if students want more help and they want more than 6 sessions? So if I am selected as an officer, I would try to increase these number of sessions or try to work so that students who really need help from the university therapist would be able to. So yeah.
I would once again tie in my experience working as a project lead at Nest, where I've worked closely with these refugees with keeping their trauma in mind, trauma from their forced displacement, and also as a part of the Red Volunteers when I've watched closely how families suffered during the pandemic. Other than that, and from my own personal experience, like I talked about the CBT and the student support plan and how to make it easier to access, and as Tanvi said, increase the number of sessions and support for students when they need it, where they need it. Yeah.
I think being prepared is the key strategy when it comes to handling such huge responsibility. As a joint secretary and a district priority officer in my country, I have handled a similar situation. And from that experience, I think it is more important to create a comfortable environment for students so that they can come up to us and explain to us about their issues. In my manifesto, I have also included a point called as Build a Better Support Team, in which I'm planning to add in the assistance link to the university app, which makes it more accessible to all the students so that they don't want to go to the website and search everything. University app is something like everyone has it. So I'm just planning to make on that. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Next question is, how will you help to mitigate the effects of the cost of living crisis on student welfare and equality? Oh, and we'll go this way around this time, so Pooja, if you could start us again.
I'm sorry.
Or would you like a moment to prepare? We can come back to you.
No, I'm good.
Okay, no bother.
I have planned to bring in the meal card plan, which is with a collaboration with university at subsidized price. In this plan, I have planned to bring in food systems where the students can buy foods using their cards, and they can load their card when they have money and use it. And it also has a credit facility which will be provided by the university, which they can use it during their financial crisis time. I have also planned to increase the term fees payment because it will be so difficult for students to if they are on loan or something debt, it would be so difficult to pay it completely on one go. And most importantly, I would think creating more on-campus job opportunities to deal with their daily crisis. Yeah.
So I've planned for working with the university's finance team to introduce more bursaries and scholarships for students. Also with the Housing Supported Career Service to decrease the rent at the university held accommodations. Work with local businesses, especially restaurants and other mostly restaurants to offer student discounts, increase the student discounts so that students can buy food from grocery stores as well. Also, yeah, that's all, I guess.
Okay, so for me, for in general, everybody living crisis depends person to person what they locate on. So I would rather focus on food, as in food and nutrition being the common one. So if I have to choose food, so for example, for a lot of international students, when we talk about Western food, we don't talk about egg and meat. So usually, including people like me, we Westerners don't eat food which has egg in it, and without so food getting without so food which does not have egg in it is quite rare. So I will make sure if we are able to, if I elected as an officer, I would make sure that there is some sort of food products which do not have egg in it, and I'm able to help students who don't eat with that, and as well as some people who don't eat halal food, they're not able to get the basic meat available in the city. So they have to travel and they have to travel to go to Westwood or somewhere to buy those foods. So if I'm able to arrange those common basic food products which students use to travel and buy it, so I will be able to manage their travel cost. So yeah, that's it.
I mean, as we all know, like the cost of living crisis is not going away. It's only going to get worse. Like I'm pretty sure the Student Advice Centre said yesterday or the day before that water bills are now going to increase as well. But I think like this is obviously one of my main manifesto points, so I've really like focused time on, I guess, like thinking about these things. And I think, I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen, but on campus there's these like little pink signs that say like where you can eat on campus, and they've got like a QR code that you can scan and go to the website and it shows you all the places, like the food outlets. But I kind of want to expand on that and say like where there's microwaves to heat your food, where there's like refillable water stations, hot water facilities, like something so simple as a map, like that will help students like locate all these facilities. They don't have to, they can use, like we've got these facilities on campus for students to use. So like why can't we use them? Like it's so, I think something so simple like that. And also like, I know I've had a lot of students come to me complaining about the prices of food on campus, especially at the Robinson Library. And I think kind of like continuing on with, I think Keris, the education candidate, mentioned yesterday about continuing on the £1 meal scheme and obviously expanding that. But I think creating more like incentivized discounts, like loyalty programs, or creating like more meal deals within the university food outlets as well, I think would be a really important idea. And I think like we, in terms of like finance, the university.
Sorry, Lisa, I'm just going to have to cut you off there and move on to the next candidate. I know you're really passionate about this, though. I'm so sorry.
So as we all know, the cost of living crisis has made life at university like extremely hard for students. It can cause a lot of students stress and anxiety. So firstly, I would want them to come and like let us know if they're elected, how they're feeling and what's going on. And then I would also first increase student awareness of the university support fund, financial assistantship fund, and if we need be emergency loans, like whether if they need them. And at the same time, I would fight for more funding to go into financial assistance for students. So ensuring that all students, like whether it be like they're going, obviously like because international students pay a lot more than home status students. International students also are less likely to get a lot of jobs on campus as well, because it takes like 3 to 4 months within the uni to get your papers and everything, so they can't really work immediately after the paperwork. So I just feel like we need to first get students aware about what they already have and then further go into that with the loans.
Great, thank you. So the next question is, being welfare officer, that requires you to represent a large range of student communities, identities and marginalised groups, meaning that having shared experiences with everybody is almost impossible. How will you overcome these gaps in identity to guarantee your election to the role will be one that works successfully for students from all walks of life? And to start with this one, if we can go to you, Nubian.
So yeah, of course, it's not easy to like share experience with everyone. So I would work with clubs and societies, especially like societies like LGBTQ plus society, to like know what they like these marginalized groups need, and then work for them. Get feedback from students and social platforms, and yeah, I guess that's going to be mostly it.
If we can go, yeah.
It would be difficult to analyze everyone, but I will make sure like everyone is like getting noticed over here. And we should be happy to be in a surrounding where we are surrounded by people from different communities and, you know, like different cultural backgrounds. We can really learn from each other. I will, as a welfare and equality officer, I will make sure that all the events conducted in here is not biased. And if there is any issues which comes in like within the kind of racism and all, will be treated immediately with utmost care. Yeah, thank you.
So for me, I believe no matter where anybody comes from, at the end of the day, they are all humans, and everybody wants to be heard, respected, represented. So if I am able to talk to them and have meetings with people who come from various backgrounds and groups and identities, and I'm able to have meetings with them, so that there is a communication which is a two-way process, and I know what they are trying to, they want and what change they are expecting, so that I will have a clear idea as to how I'm supposed to plan my ideas and events, which could support them and help them in a way. Yeah, thank you.
I think for me, especially as a welfare and equality officer, I think it's so important to take a reflexive approach. I think most importantly, like for me personally, I think it's about recognizing my own biases, recognizing the privilege, and kind of knowing that, yes, I might have flaws in knowledge, but that shouldn't cloud any judgment. It shouldn't cloud any issues that students may be facing. And I think it's also about like acknowledging that I might not know everything, and working with liberation officers who are working with societies that kind of like helping educating myself, like as a welfare and equality officer. Like I think that's the most important thing, is continually educating yourself about all these societies and all the continuous issues that students are facing. So I think, yeah, just being aware of like my privileges, being aware of my bias, and then acknowledging like the flaws I have, and consistently educating myself in all those kind of things. But yeah.
I do recognise that there will be gaps. However, I feel like I can empathise with anyone. Whilst I understand that from a first-person perspective, I will never be able to understand where someone comes from. I can surely empathise with them and try to understand, and I'm sure together we would be able to find a solution. I feel like if elected, I can act on my manifesto and ensure that all students from all walks of life will be given a chance to express themselves.
Great answers, everybody. Thank you. So last question for the everybody section before we go into direct questions. It is, how will you incorporate the roles of other sabbatical officers into your work to help enhance your role? And to begin, I think we'll go back to Tanvi.
So as I mentioned earlier, that I'm not planning to work just as a single person, but as a team. And every sabbatical officer, they have their own uniqueness that they bring into the table. So if I have to mention one of my manifesto points, where I have mentioned I would help students plan their schedules and assignments. So if I have to plan an activity regarding that, so I would like to go forward to ask for help from PG officers and education officers to connect me with the alumni or lecturers, and if they could help me share their own experiences in how students could assign their day-to-day works. And with that, I would also request the student media officer to come and help me record the videos if any lecturer or alumni wants to record their talking. So like involving all of the officers and creating events focusing on that, I guess I would be able to work accordingly. Thank you.
I think for me, I think as we all know, like there is a lot of bureaucracy and red tape that we have to go as a university and as an institution. And I think the main importance is, like as sabbatical officers, yes, everyone's running their own campaigns, but it's all about like working together to create that even slight possibility of some sort of positive change. I think is so important. Like an example, like how now we have now there's consent training in like committees, and it wasn't like the former president Abbey was the first person to fully open up that discussion, and without that, like Maddie, the current president, and working with Happens Here and Sex Expression and all these societies, that wouldn't have actually happened. So I think that's so like crucial. And I mean, like in my manifesto, there's like countless. I've got quite a lot of examples of that. Like specifically, I would like to work with the education officer, specifically about improving the PEC and extension system, especially in the cost of living crisis. I think that maybe PECs can include the cost of living as an issue, and I think especially for students that are in part-time work, I think a lot of the time lecturers like fail to recognise that students do have to work to be able to pay their bills, pay rent and that kind of thing. And I think also liberation officers, I think they really do get overlooked because like they're students, like yes it's a part-time role, but like most of them are students immersed in that student community, and I think it'd just be silly not to use them, and they have so much knowledge in their specific roles that I think, like, as well as obviously as welfare officers supporting their campaigns, but they can contribute so much, and we can like work as a team to really like drive whatever campaign that we're working on.
So for me, in order for me to be able to carry out my vision, I'm going to need help from my other sabbatical officers, and I hope to be able to play a role in them achieving their goals and my goals. At the heart of my campaign is basically awareness, so I hope to definitely be collaborating with the next media officer, and I would like to implement more activities as well. And finally, I'd also work with the president and my vice president to secure more funding for investment and student welfare, as well as the athletic officer for more, for mental health, for awareness, de-stressing, so using the athletic officer for activities, organizing more stuff to help students de-stress and make it aware.
So yeah, work in the Students' Union is a team effort. So I think I'd work with like postgraduate officers to specifically focus on postgraduate issues, with education officers like Keris, or the education officer candidate said, working like if lecturers are striking and some of the like lessons get missed, so there should be no assessments, and working on that as well. With the activities officer, creating like cultural festivals to celebrate diversity of like different social groups, different diverse groups, and also like celebrate their achievements as well, not just what struggles do they have to face. Thank you.
I would like to answer this question more specifically by linking it to my key areas of focus. By collaborating with education officer, I would like to include, invisible disabilities such as ADHD, diabetes as a reason for extension in the PEG form. With the help of, activities officer, we have planned to engage with the local societies and charity to bring in a program which can help, which can offer a practical help to who has been raped or sexually abused. With the help of student media officer, we can promote all the helps and programs available as a welfare and student thing.
Great, thank you. So we're now going to go into the second section of the debate, which will be personal questions. You'll each have 2 minutes to reply, and we're going to be starting with Anirban, sorry. So you mentioned in one of your 3 priorities promoting mental health support through campaigns to spread awareness and reduce stigma. For many, mental health is a difficult and private experience. Taking the boundaries of these students into consideration, how do you plan to enact and engage a campaign with sensitivity to student triggers?
So I know how difficult it can be to express like what difficulties they're facing, especially considering mental health. So I would look for anonymous testimonials, feedback from students to, again, anonymous, to know if the plan is working or not. I would also encourage like more awareness campaigns on social media platforms, and also to signpost like where students can get help, create a safe space, safe spaces all across campus where they can go without fear of getting stigmatized. Yeah, that's all, I guess. Thank you.
Great. So next question is for Azra. You say you want to ensure that all teaching staff and society committee members receive appropriate welfare training. Welfare training is something that staff and relevant committee members already undergo. Were you aware of this? And if so, how do you want to improve the current framework?
The way I want to improve the current framework is by allowing more staff committee members and the relevant staff committees who need training to get more intense training, so more funding for it, so investing more in that training by getting like some professional, like professor or someone coming in for the training, because mental health, and I just think like people's mental health should not be taken as a joke or lightly. I feel like more posters and flyers weekly need to be out per week, because which will allow like students like to be aware that there are like committee members and staff members who have had training, so more of that, so more awareness for students, so if students are aware that the people who they want to speak to are well trained and they would want to go speak to them more. So yeah, more of that.
Thank you. So our next question is for Lucy. In your manifesto, you draw on your active involvement with the Feminist Society and with social justice work, but you call your priority listening to the voices of marginalised groups. If elected, how will you ensure you are a balanced welfare officer working on behalf of all communities and respond to the needs of any Newcastle student?
I mean, I think the most important thing, like first and foremost, it's all about putting the student needs first without any judgment, regardless. It is always putting the student first. And I think over the past few years and being a president of society, I've learned, I think, again, another important thing is to remain level-headed and rational. I think, and I mean, I've had to do that so many times within the society, and I think I've, again, taken that into my personal life as well. Like, for example, like a recent example of this is like in my presidency this year, there's been a lot of difference of opinion and like a quite big situation of difference of opinion, and it came to my attention, and we followed we went to the NUSU activities officer, we followed all the right protocol, but in the end, like, they decided not to take the matter seriously. And I think it then was, because I was like, I'm president and everything, it kind of came down to me to make that final decision. And I guess it was taking that, like really thinking rationally, not, like all these people were like firing their opinions at me, and as much as obviously I did listen to that, I think like going through that process of like, I spoke to former presidents, we had a long discussion with the executive committee team. I just got loads of different viewpoints from so many different people. Like I reached out to other societies, I reached out to other welfare officers and presidents, etc. But I think the main thing to come across from that was that I took clear and decisive action, and I think that is so important about being balanced, is keeping that rationality. But I think we also have to say that we all have differences, we all have different needs, and I think actually we do have more in common than we do have difference, and I think that sense of commonality can really help us like find solidarity in all these issues that we are facing as students. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So next is Pooja. So in light of not knowing how to write a perfect manifesto, you shared a personal story about your experience with the Student Advice and Support Hub. Without providing a traditional manifesto, how do you plan to address the potential lack of clarity surrounding your specific goals, campaigns, and suitability to the role of welfare officer?
My manifesto expresses my willingness to make the changes. It was more like setting up a foundation rather than like merely saying these are the changes which will be implemented. I personally believe that the students who are voting to me deserve to know that how are these changes gonna be implemented and all. And I'm using social media as a platform to express all the key areas and how I have planned to like achieve these goals over the year. Using the platform I think it was a great idea to do that. Rather than sticking to the traditional manifesto, I was just focusing on explaining to the students who vote to me about the plans and how I'm planning to do that.
Great, thank you. And last question is for you, Tanvi. You are the only candidate to mention a desire to introduce or offer more eye tests and dental checkups for students. How do you envisage this unique addition being put into practice on campus?
First of all, everybody loves to eat sweets and coffee, and we end up having some or the other dental issues. So before coming to UK, as I'm an international student, I come from India, Mumbai. Everybody is talking about, okay, get a test done before going, because eye tests and dental checkups are expensive. But nobody is talking, if you get a cavity or if you have to take an appointment, how do you go about it? How do you get an appointment done if you want to? Everybody is generally talking about NHS. Obviously, NHS is there to help, but there is a long process that goes under booking an appointment. Say, for example, dental appointment, because I have gone through it, and it takes a lot of time. And it's like every day you have to call for getting a normal booking. Just just for a small cavity or whatever. So I thought that if there is a chance and if we have in our university a dental hospital, why not have free dental checkups and eye tests for all the students? Taking eye tests because all of the students are 24/7 in front of screens and they are on laptops and mobiles, and our eyes do get strained and we have dry eyes issues and then we have head pains. So if I am selected as an officer, if I'm able to do if I'm able to cover these two important aspects for every student, I guess I would be more than happy. Because also with it might be like for some people it might be a very small issue, like oh, dental checkups, oh, eye test. But when you have some issue with yourself and you're alone in this new country and you are like, how do I contact, what is the process, it gets a lot of it comes with a lot of anxiety and nervousness, like how do you go about it. And I do have seen that university does full body checkups which are free for students, but there was no mentioning about eye tests and dental checkups. So I thought these two are the important aspects that we need to look upon. So yeah.
Great, thank you. So before we finish the debate, we're going to turn over to questions submitted online from the audience. So for Anirban, can you answer how you support sexual violence survivors?
So I didn't really mention this in my manifesto, which was an oversight on my part. But again, I would say that create safe spaces for just like as mental health, also for like sexual violence survivors, so they can de-stress and talk to someone about it, like professional counselors, and also like spread awareness campaigns again about where to go, like signposting events, safe sex practices, etc. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And for Pooja, could you answer how would you support student parents and pregnant students?
Sorry?
How would you support student parents, it's okay, and pregnant students?
In my manifesto, I have included a point where there should be a plan and a scheme which supports the students who are getting pregnant during the university, and they shouldn't be dropped out just because they are pregnant. We should be able to do something for them, like offering online assistance or something, co-education officer, and discuss with the university to implement such scheme.
Great, and just before we finish off, we're going to do a quick closing statement for everybody. We're going to begin with you, Azra, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you all for coming to this debate and taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it. I hope you were all able to understand my manifesto and my plan for the role. In this role, I hope to make a positive difference in students' time at university. It should be a time where they feel supported so they can explore their interests and express themselves. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask later.
Firstly, I just want to say thank you to Student Media and NUTV for allowing us to do this. I just think hopefully from everything that I've discussed today that you will kind of get an understanding of what I'd like to do if I was elected as Welfare and Equality Officer. I think all the skills that I've talked about and through my conscientious work on social justice, I think allows me to champion the voices of the student body. And also I think the skills that I do have allow me to understand with pragmatism how we can fully support the student community and get our voices heard. Lastly, I'd like to say, head to my social media if you ever want a breakdown of my manifesto points, and don't forget, welfare needs, vote Lucy leads.
First of all, thank you to the audience to be here. Thank you for the NUSU team to give me the opportunity to represent myself. Being an international student, do you think should you apply for should you elect for a new position or should you take part in it? Would you be accepted? So, not making me feel that I'm an outside student and accepting me as student. I would like to thank everybody, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Right, so thank you all for coming over here. I would like to thank NUTV for covering this debate and Student Media for organising it. I would like to thank all of the other candidates for like presenting their own unique viewpoints, and I do hope that whoever gets elected brings like all the like other viewpoints of candidates to like just do a better job, I guess. Thank you.
Firstly, I would like to thank everyone who took their time to be here, and I personally thank the NUTV and the student media who organized this. It really feels good to know the other points which like what are the more changes which I could make in if I'm selected, what are the best things which I could do if any one of the other candidates selected, as Nirpan said, can just make it all better together. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. We're going to pass back to our presenter, Maria.
Thank you for coming. Are you guys all right? You can breathe now. You can breathe. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for those who are watching. And then we'll be back in 15 minutes for the AU officer debate at 7 o'clock. So see you then. And we're back. Hello, my name is Maria Pace, and welcome to the 2023 student elections. Now, before we begin, I need to read out a statement of respect. NUSU welcomes all Newcastle University students to the 2023 election debates, organised and broadcast by the NUSU student media. Our priority is to facilitate a fair and democratic election, and we believe in freedom of speech and the right for all students to express their views. However, we will not tolerate any harassment and discrimination of any kind. We ask that you treat all fellow students, colleagues, and staff with respect. Anyone displaying rude, aggressive, or inappropriate behaviour within the question submission form or in the room will be immediately removed and will be unable to play an active role in this or future debates relating to the 2023 student elections. Now, we're doing AU officer for this debate, the single candidate here. And if you're introducing yourself, you do not need to repeat the questions, for they'll be on the screen, and we'd like you to use your pronouns. So best of luck and enjoy.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Kimiko. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a third-year maths student. I've been doing water polo for 2 years, and last year I did intramural netball. Fun fact about myself, I've done fight night and I've zip-lined off the Tyne Bridge, so I'm not scared of anything. And I'm running for AU officer because in school, if you were a girl and you weren't very good at netball or hockey, you were completely sidelined and there wasn't really anything else for you to do. And I was one of those people who wasn't good at hockey or netball. And coming to uni, like a lot of people might not have done sports in school for the same reasons, and I just want to give everyone the chance to have a go and, yeah, try things.
Great, so we'll kick off with the first question. So looking at your manifesto specifically, because we can't look at anyone else's, with your taster sessions, how are you trying to entice those who want to come for fun instead of competing?
I think it would be good to get testimonies from people who already come to taster sessions and get them to say what they like about sessions, and hopefully other people will see that and want to come. I think a really big thing about taster sessions is how well we advertise them. So we just need to advertise these opportunities more.
Great, another great answer there. So following from that, when are you thinking of holding these taster sessions? Do you think there is more opportune time in the year?
So obviously, Freshers Week and Refreshers, they're great times because they're start of the term. Those are also, we should really push to advertise the most at those times. But I think having taster sessions, every 2 weeks, every few weeks, they should be regular. They shouldn't just be at the start of term. And I think even putting on taster sessions at the end of term, maybe when competitive sports is wound down a bit, that would be good also, so that people are like, ooh, this is something I want to try next term.
So do you think it's feasible to work with those clubs who turn people away when they want to compete and create sessions for those people? Do we have the facilities to create more teams with allocations of sports halls, studios, etc.?
Great question. So it really depends on the sport, actually. The uni actually offers quite a lot in terms of not competing in bucks, and I think what we need to do is get people who are turned away from teams, redirect them to intramural sports, local clubs, and give it a go, because if you look, you can find stuff.
So following from that one as well, one of your first manifesto points is to continue promoting coaching qualifications. Could you elaborate on this, please, and what are you trying to achieve with this?
Okay, so as someone who has worked part-time the whole of my uni life, I think it would be great if people could get coaching qualifications and use that to support themselves while they're at uni. That will help with their own development in the sport, and also for some niche sports sometimes they find it hard to find coaches. So where there's a lack of coaches, having student coaches to supplement that is just would be helpful. And it's also nice because student coaches probably know the players on a more personal level, so it would just be good for everyone, I think.
Amazing. So you also mentioned starting a new disability sports club. How are you thinking of going about starting this club?
So, since writing my manifesto, I've been and spoken to the Wheelchair Basketball Club, and I spoke to them, and the biggest issue with like disability sports clubs is finding coaches, because obviously there won't be many coaches for those sports because they are really niche. And I spoke to them, and they're like a really accessible disability sports club. Like, they're good for beginners. And for the time being, I think it would be best to work on just giving them more resources and sort of gauge the interest for other disability sports.
Amazing. So, what support do you think you can give to clubs who wish to work with charities as well? Because you talk about supporting disabilities, but
Yeah.
for those who want to work with charities, this was one of your manifesto points.
I think the biggest thing I can do is like help promote them, just again, advertising, and sort of make them aware of what resources they have available. Also, like the SU venue is like free for them to hire, help them with any room booking they want, and just raise the awareness of whatever event they're doing.
So, moving away from your manifesto then, and towards continuing work of the previous AU officers, are you thinking about carrying on Hannah's Play with Pride campaign, and how are you going to do this, if so?
I think her Play with Pride campaign's great because last year, I think she did it in response to the rugby governing body like not allowing trans women to compete in women's rugby. And I think it's great. I think I'd continue on with that, but I also don't want to just piggyback off her work. So I've not really given much time to like think about it, but yeah, later on I'll find something that aligns with my passions and stuff, and yeah, there'll be something. I just don't know what yet.
Amazing. So this is my final question. As head of sport at the Courier and head of news at NSR, would you want there to be a better connection between the sports clubs and student media than just yourself? Hannah gives her fortnightly columns, for an example. How would you go about getting the sports clubs more involved?
So I think I'd continue Hannah's columns. That would be great. I've seen that there's currently like an A to Z spotlight in the Courier, and I think that's great, but I think the column's quite small, and I think it would be great if we just made it bigger. So let's just do the A to Z spotlight again next year, but bigger. And let's do it with pictures as well.
Great, that's very good feedback for me. So, audience questions. What kind of accessible sports would you like to see at Newcastle?
Ooh, tough one. I think it would be good just like if we tried to adapt what sports we have for like people with disabilities. So like, for example, I know archery, like they're quite good at adapting to people who use wheelchairs. I'm trying to think of other sports right now. I'm not sure, sorry.
No worries. Do you want to go back to that question later, or are you good for now?
I think I'm good.
Great. So, final audience question then. Will you lower the price to join sports teams?
I don't know, because I think it would be good if more teams offered maybe like a termly fee, like as an option, not saying they should be everyone should be forced to buy like memberships for different terms, but just if you wanted to try something in the first term and then just do something in the second term instead.
Great, that's all the questions from me. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for the debates. How are you?
I'm just happy to be here.
As you should. As you should. Well, thank you for spending time with us, and cast your votes, and you'll also see who will win. All right, goodbye.